What's up, party people? Let's talk about fat, baby. Let's talk about butter and ghee. So I'm a little sick, if you can't hear it. Anybody that's been sick on a ketogenic diet knows it sucks. Can't really take a lot of different medications because they all have sugar and they all have carbs. So NyQuil, DayQuil, all that stuff is out the window. I've been taking basically sugar-free cough drops, and I've been making ginger tea, which is terrible. It's one of the most disgusting things in the world. But it's effective and it's been working. With that said, I'm still a little bit sick. If anybody knows of any good medicines to take on a ketogenic diet, please comment below. Maybe I'll in the future do a video on that because it does suck. I know that they make like diabetic medications. I think one is called diabetic tussin. I tried it in the past personally. I didn't feel like it worked, but that could have just been me. But anyways, that's besides the point. What I want to talk about today is grocery shopping on a ketogenic diet. I feel like grocery shopping on a ketogenic diet is one of those things that always sounds more difficult than it is. Last week, I did a video called Costco Keto Haul, where I took everyone along with me to Costco and showed kind of an example of some of the things I buy there. But I started thinking afterwards, is like, instead of just showing specific foods, I think it's good to have a general plan, if you would, when you're going grocery shopping. Because I've been doing this diet 10 months, and for me, grocery shopping is no different than probably the way anybody else grocery shops. I just figured out a plan that works for me. So that's what I kind of want to go over. And basically the topics are: be creative, be an explorer, be prepared, be a researcher, avoid marketing ploys, and snacks. So I'll break all those down a little more in detail. Before I get into that, though, I want to thank everybody that's been watching the YouTube videos. I've been getting a lot of great comments, a lot of great feedback, and it's really cool to talk with everyone. I generally do enjoy it. I said it from the beginning. That's one of the cool things about the ketogenic diet is the community. It's so easy now to reach out to people and find out recipes and just kind of just touch base and see how everyone's doing, and it's a great thing. Ketogenic diet at times can be kind of lonely in the sense of a lot of people don't understand the way you eat. It sounds crazy to people, your friends, your family. So in that sense, it's good to be able to connect to other people that understand what you're doing, have gone through the same things that you've gone through. Maybe they're just starting off, maybe they're more advanced, but we can all learn from each other. And point is, appreciate all the feedback, and it's great connecting with everybody. So jumping right into this, the first thing I say is be an explorer. Explore the different grocery stores, see what they have to offer, compile a list of go-to spots that specialize in certain items. Like for me, for instance, I go to a Japanese market, Maracay, for anybody that lives in LA. It's an awesome Japanese market, or Asian, maybe Asian. I don't know, it's specifically Japanese, but it's an Asian market called Maracay. They make yam noodles, which are this crazy sounding thing, and it comes in a bag, but it's the closest thing to pasta that you're going to get on a ketogenic diet. I've tried everything from like spaghetti squash to the zoodles, and I'm not knocking them. Spaghetti squash is a little high on a ketogenic diet for me personally. I tend to stay at the lower realm of eating ketogenic, but yam noodles are cool because they're basically no carb. I think it's maybe 1 carb per serving. It's made from yam powder and water, and it comes in a bag full of liquid, and the noodles actually look like noodles, and they taste like noodles. They have the same consistency as noodles. It does have a weird kind of smell when you first take it out of the package, but if you rinse it, that goes away, and it's seriously the closest thing to cooked pasta that you're going to find. Another thing that I love is macadamia milk, and I found that at Whole Foods. I get the vanilla unsweetened one, and I found that just because I was just kind of looking around. I was looking actually for coconut milk, and I wanted to see what else they had there, and they had cashew milk and a few different things, and I looked at carbs and I tried different ones, and personally my favorite turned out to be the vanilla unsweetened macadamia milk. I'll put that in the freezer. I'll freeze it up a little bit. Apologize. And I'll just drink it like almost like a milkshake. It's the greatest thing in the world. I even got my 3-year-old daughter addicted to it. At first it's weird, man, because it's gray. It looks like something out of the Matrix, but it's incredible. It's one of my favorite things. The point of that is, though, is that if I hadn't tried different things and explored different places, I for sure wouldn't have found those. Like Maracay is awesome, but really nothing is in English in there, and I don't speak any Asian language. So when I went in there, it was kind of more for fun, but I found some really cool products. Yam noodles are probably the coolest, but they have a lot of other things too, like tahini. But you could probably find tahini at different places as well. But the point is don't be afraid to explore different places. Explore Target, explore wherever you shop, Walmart. I actually was just at Walmart and I found coconut oil, which is kind of like MCT oil. I'm not smart enough to tell you really what the difference is between coconut oil and MCT oil. I'm just assuming that the MCT oil is more refined with the MCTs. But even the coconut oil says that it has 4 times the amount of MCTs than regular coconut oil, which is like solidified. This is a liquid version, so it looks just like MCT oil. And it's super cheap, and I would have never thought that Walmart would have something like that, but they did. And so be an explorer. Get out there, go into different markets, even an Asian market, whatever. Try different places, see what they have to offer, and find those little keto gems. Be creative. And by this, I mean just be creative. Find different ways of making traditional recipes. So, for instance, like I love shepherd's pie. And I found a keto version of shepherd's pie by substituting mashed cauliflower instead of mashed potatoes. And it's that simple sometimes. And other ones, you're going to have to work a little harder. Like, the great thing about the internet is that there's a lot of stuff out there. So a lot of that work has been done for you. Like, if you wanted to find, for instance, like a ketogenic cheesecake, you could get creative on your own, and it would be a little difficult. Or you could just Google it, and you'll find all that stuff right there. So don't be afraid, though. Don't be afraid to play with some of your favorite recipes. Just recently, for anybody that doesn't know Latino food, there's something called elote, and it's basically corn with mayonnaise, cotija cheese, and butter, and hot sauce if you want hot sauce on it. It sounds ridiculous, and it's on a stick like a corn dog. It sounds ridiculous, but it's probably one of the awesomest foods ever created. And it's not ketogenic friendly because of the corn, obviously. But my wife recently just made that same type of thing, substituting cauliflower, riced cauliflower for the corn. And it's just in a bowl. And I thought it was going to be weird and gross, but it was awesome. And we probably had it 3 times this week just because we fell in love with it. So don't be afraid to play with different foods. Don't be afraid to get creative. And that's going to really help you in 2 ways. One, it makes the ketogenic diet funner. And 2, it's going to stop you from just burning out. Like, when I first started this diet, I've talked about it many times. I didn't know what net carbs were. I had never thought about carbs, to be honest with you, before starting this diet. I never really cared about them. And I also was kind of under the impression a little bit that carbs were good for you, especially if you lift and move heavy things. But point is, I didn't know what net carbs were. So my beginning experience on this diet was basically eating 20 total carbs. So anybody that has tracked that knows 20 total carbs is nothing. So I was barely eating any vegetables. I was eating mostly only meats and cheeses and things of that nature, which is not necessarily bad. But when you're doing it that way, you're more likely to burn out. That's a little harder to maintain long term. So being creative with your meals and coming up with fun things, and really most importantly is finding ways of making your favorite recipes keto friendly. That's going to be awesome for your sanity and for just the longevity of the ketogenic diet. 3, be prepared. So generally in life, I don't have much of a plan, to be honest with you. I don't necessarily love plans. I like to just be spontaneous. But there is some things in life that you need to plan with. Like, you're going to take a bunch of little kids to Disneyland. It's good to have some sort of plan. You're going to go to the grocery store on a ketogenic diet. It's good to have some sort of plan. And it doesn't have to be super in-depth plan. It can be a vague plan. It can be as simple as knowing the type of foods you want to buy. It can be as simple as knowing the type of food you can't buy. Whatever plan works for you, and that's really dependent on the person. For me, when I grocery shop, I like to just have kind of like a list of foods I'm going, especially when I'm going to multiple places. I'll have like my Trader Joe list, my Costco list, my Whole Foods list, my Mordecai list, wherever I'm going, Sprouts, doesn't matter. I like to have a list specifically for each place. My wife, she grocery shops with the recipes, so that way she just checks them off by recipe. That's a little more in depth for me. But my wife is way more organized than me, but it works for her. The point is whatever works for you, that's the plan you should have. The main thing when you have a plan is you want to make sure you're getting obviously everything you need for your recipe, and also that you're not falling victim to kind of on the whim buys, like, which I should kind of refrain from that, bad buys, which is you get there and you're confronted with cookies or whatever because you're going to be bombarded constantly with bad things to get. Or trying to come up with meals on the spot, you may not be able to come up with the best stuff. So, but you shouldn't have the plan, I guess, so in depth that you're missing out on the first thing, which is being an explorer and being able to buy different keto-friendly items. But it's having that plan and making sure you're getting foods that you're going to be able to build meals out of. Be a researcher. So this kind of ties in a little bit to being an explorer, and I touched on it a little bit, which is do not be afraid to Google things. Like any of the knowledge I have in my head about a ketogenic diet is simply from Googling stuff. I Google things all the time. I'm in love with Googling things because I get these weird thoughts in my head and they drive me crazy until I find out the answer. And that's what I've done on most things pertaining to ketogenic diet. So do that, especially with foods. Search things. You can search ketogenic meals. You can search low carb. You can search like low carb cheesecake, ketogenic cheesecake, and you'll find this whole plethora of recipes. And you can check out Reddit. Reddit has a bunch of great I don't know what you call them, posts or whatever on different recipes. But I guess pretend like you're a chef and you're trying to find the best, recipes, and just do your research. And also be a researcher when you're shopping. And I think that's crucial too, is that being a researcher prior is going to help you be prepared. It's going to help you find recipes. It's going to help you find places and different foods and things of that nature. But it's going to help you a lot on the spot. Is I tend to not take something or buy something unless I know what's in it and if it's keto friendly. So some of those things are simple because you just look at the nutritional info on the back and it'll say the carbs and the sugar. Other things like vegetables, you're not going to be as lucky. So you're going to have to, do your research on that. Google it. Take your phone out and Google, is spaghetti squash keto friendly? Or even simpler, nutritional information, spaghetti squash. And then check the carbs. I've talked many times about an app called MyFitnessPal. I'm not associated with them or sponsored by them, but they have a huge database and it's very simple to use their system. So you can simply, type in spaghetti squash and you get a whole, readout of everything, the carbs and the calories and all that different stuff. So that's going to help you a lot. Avoid marketing ploys. So not a lot of things are being necessarily advertised as keto friendly because keto is not as popular as like gluten-free and paleo is. But still, be weary of anything that's marketed as low carb. So for instance, like Atkins products or even bulletproof products. And the reason why is not all low carb is ketogenic, and in fact low carb is 150 carbs. That's considered low carb. So what's good for somebody who's on a 150 carb diet is not going to be necessarily good for somebody who's on a 20 carb diet. So I've seen this a lot too with like gluten-free. I used to assume gluten-free meant no carbs, and in fact gluten-free products probably have more carbs than the non-gluten-free version, which I don't know exactly how that works, but it baffles my mind. Atkins as well. I stay away from Atkins products because for me personally, I find that all the products that Atkins makes, at least the ones that I've seen, are geared towards sweets and chocolates and things of that nature. And that's not at all to knock Atkins. I know a lot of people have had great success with Atkins. Phase 1 of the Atkins diet is a ketogenic diet. So, I got nothing but love for the system. But the actual branding of products, I feel like it's twofold. One, it's to make you, the consumer, pay more for a name. And two, you're going to kind of fall into this line of just buying shit junk food that you don't necessarily need just because it's geared towards low carb. So same thing with Bulletproof. I feel like Bulletproof is awesome as far as the coffee, but the actual branding of bulletproof stuff, I feel like it's just a way for them to charge a lot of money for products that you can get that are non-branded. So stay away from those marketing ploys. It's going to help your pocket, and it's also going to help your waistline, because there's no sense of just buying chocolates and shit like that just because you can. I mean, you can also buy sugar-free chocolate, but I wouldn't advise doing that all the time. So just because it's Atkins branded, I wouldn't incorporate it into your day-to-day diet. I would try to stick to more of the earth-grown stuff, or animal products, if you would, than manufactured foods. That's my only point. And then the last kind of thing is to have snacks on hand. And the reason that's important is because not having snacks is going to probably be the biggest killer for eating ketogenic. The times that I've come the closest to breaking is when I don't have something on hand. Like if I don't have, like fat bombs made, for instance, I'm more likely then to go and break down. And luckily I haven't done it, but that's not to say it hasn't been tempting. I've been tempted many times, especially early on in this lifestyle, to cheat and eat foods that I shouldn't eat. And that's because I didn't have anything on hand. And sometimes that's as simple as having some nuts, some bacon jerky, something to stop if that hunger hits. And right when you're starting to get hangry, if you don't have something to eat, you're going to make a bad decision. I've seen it happen with a lot of people that eat low carb, that eat ketogenic. Almost every single time they break, it's because I tell them, "Why'd you do it, man?" Not that I'm criticizing anybody, but I just ask. Like, I'm curious, why did you do it? And it's generally, man, I didn't have anything to eat. So make sure you have those snacks. I talked about in the Costco Keto Haul, the little, what I call the Keto Lunchables, which are those salami and cheese slices. You don't have to get that specific brand. You can get whichever one you like. I actually also I get these little provolone circles and pepperoni. You can eat that, whatever it is. Macadamia nuts are great. Even a Quest bar is 4 net carbs. I apologize. It's like 4 net carbs in a Quest bar. Some people say that Quest bars affect them. For me personally, it never affected me, but everybody's body is different. The point is, you find something you like that you can snack on when you're on the go, even in the house. If you get really hungry, like if all of a sudden after doing this podcast, if I get really hungry, like super, super hungry, and I don't have anything to snack on, and I'm too hungry to wait to cook something, I'm probably going to go down the street. I'll go to a 7-Eleven, or I'll go to a place where I'm going to make a bad decision. Hopefully you would go somewhere and you would eat like a low carb burger or whatever the case may be. But the point is that if you don't have food on hand or snacks on hand, you're more likely to make bad decisions. This is another reason why I don't hate people for drinking Diet Coke. Like I do it from time to time, and I don't necessarily think it's the best thing to put in your body. But if you drinking a Diet Coke is going to stop you from drinking a regular Coke, then it serves its purpose in that sense. Which, that's kind of it. I'll wrap it up there. I apologize. I'm really sick, and so my brain is super foggy. I hope this comes out clear, and I hope this is helpful. But I'm really sick, so I apologize. One thing I did want to mention before I wrap this up, and it has to do with Diet Coke. About 2 weeks ago, I mentioned on the podcast that I was stalling, and I couldn't figure out why I was stalling. And I narrowed it down to one of two things, and I believe it was kind of both. I believe it was one more than the other, but I believe both were contributing factors. And one was Diet Coke. I got into a bad habit of drinking. I was going to 7-Eleven and refilling the big thing of Diet Coke. And I was like, no calories. I'll be honest with you. I believe a lot in primal health, and I believe a lot in like the primal connection and ancestral health and paleo. With all that said, I still drink Diet Coke from time to time, and I kind of hate it because I believe that it is a poisonous substance, and I believe that we should only drink water. But hey, we're all human, and sometimes we go against better judgment and drink things we shouldn't drink. But I cut the Diet Coke out almost completely, and I started losing weight again. And so my only guess is I was getting the one that was allegedly aspartame free. I don't know that it really is. Who really knows these things? But my only guess is that it must have been whatever sugar substance or sugar substitute rather they're using, must have been causing an insulin spike, because I was still losing, but it was at such a slow rate. And granted, I've already lost a lot of weight. I've lost almost 100 pounds, so weight loss is going to be a little slower, but it was slower than it should have been. And as soon as I cut off the Diet Coke, I started losing at a faster rate. So that is something to keep in mind for all you Diet Coke drinkers. The second thing is I was drinking a lot of iced coffee and cold brew, which I'm not saying don't drink that, but I was drinking it with heavy whipping cream, and I was getting it from Starbucks, and I would always say light, or just a little bit, some heavy whipping cream. And it's one of those things where I got lazy with my, being attentive to how my food is made, which is a big thing that I advocate for, is for everyone to ask what's in your food, make sure, see how much they're putting, things of that nature. And it's a pain in the ass, but it helps you from things like this, because I had kind of stopped doing that a little bit. And one day I just noticed, it was actually the person at Starbucks was like, well, how much do you want? I was like, oh, just a splash. And then when they gave it to me, my coffee was super dark. And I was like, how much did you put in there? Like, oh, just put like a splash, like 2 tablespoons. And then so I was like, okay, that's weird, because it's usually so much lighter. And then the next time I went, I didn't say nothing. I just watched how they made it. And I actually saw how much heavy whipping cream they put in that coffee. And it's a tremendous amount. So the point of that is heavy whipping cream is generally good with carbs, but it's very, very high in calories. And even though on a ketogenic diet, we don't have to count carbs like religiously, you cannot be crazy with them either, And so they were putting somewhere probably in the region of maybe a half a cup to a cup. So I don't know exactly how many tablespoons that is, but I'm assuming it's somewhere in the region of 8 to 10, which is anywhere from 400 to 500 calories that I was consuming. And I will get a refill sometimes, especially if I'm at Starbucks writing or just hanging out for podcasting. And so you can see that's easily 1,000 calories just from your coffee. So I cut back on that. Now I'm very specific. I tell them, look, I only want like 1 or 2 tablespoons worth of on the top. That way I can see it. And since then, again, my weight loss accelerated further. So it was a combination of those 2 things. And that's that. As always, this audio will be in iTunes under Neanderthal Radio. And for those of you that listen to the podcast, there's videos in YouTube also under Neanderthal Radio. You can follow me on Instagram. I think it's Bearded Neanderthal. And that's it. I'll bring you guys another video, another podcast next week. Thank you. Love you. Goodbye.